Welcome to the Visionary Chronicles. Thanks again for joining us for the next episode of the Visionary Chronicles, number 174 for October, end of October episode for us to talk about leadership. And one of the areas that we feel isn't talked about enough, actually, and we at Liquid Mind, we talk about the personal as much as the professional leadership balance in companies and how important it is to ensure with the, let's just say, the growth of technology and the growth of SaaS and software and all the supposed tools that make you more effective as a leader, but also affect your ability to be a leader. And what I mean by this is that there's this term that nobody wants to hear out there, and it's called burnout. And it's generated by excessive availability that a lot of people don't want to address. So these are things that we talk about with Liquid Mind, not just subjects on how to be a leader, how to grow a great visionary company. All those are extremely important. But if you can't be effective as a leader, then that's something we need to talk about as well. So today we're going to talk about the leadership pressure to, I'll just say, always be on. Always be available to both your employees as well as your family at home. How do you balance this? So I say this balancing of leadership availability and burnout is really an important subject that we all need to talk about and we all need to address. So the quote I'd like to talk about today is, leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. And the pressure comes not from authority, but from the responsibility to empower and uplift others, especially when the stakes are high. And really what that quote means is we're constantly as leaders. And we talk about this in our whiteboarding with business strategy. And one area that we do talk about with Liquid Mind when we work with our brands, whether it be acquisition, whether it be growth, whether it be an entrepreneur, whatever it is, we also whiteboard leadership balance. And the question we always get is, what do you mean by leadership balance? Well, when you get into a growth phase of a company, the buildup of a company, you get so consumed with not only making the company viable, but once it is viable, continuing to grow it, and you get swallowed up with availability. So when you look at this, your pressure comes from availability and also from being there for those around you. And that's why I say leadership is not about being in charge, but about taking care of those in your charge. And as a result of that, availability gets diminished. And you have to be aware of what your priorities are, both personally and professionally. So I always start out with this Chronicle intro. I just say, how do leaders balance availability, both professionally and personally? You know, how do leaders take care of those they lead while ensuring they don't burn out? So we talk about this, and there's several points that I wanted to talk about today that address this leadership challenge and this balancing act of availability between the professional side of your life as well as the personal side. Both are equally as important, but I will tell you the personal side is probably the most important area you need to dedicate and time block for to make sure you don't lose sight of time. That's all you have is time. I'll agree with Mark Cuban. All I have left is time. You know, money will come, but your time is lost. So when we talk about this, take that to heart. You know, the leadership leader, with the first point I'd like to make is this modern leadership dilemma that we face. So leadership and visionary leaders are faced with this increasing pressure, continual pressure to constantly be available and responsive 24/7. I always saw this ACW, this all-connected world that we live in. And many times what we find when we talk to business leaders through Liquid Mind is their own worst enemy. I say when you put your out of office, make sure that you're out of office and you're not connecting with people, because as soon as you do, you're connected and people start connecting back. So you want to make sure that you're disciplined with your availability. In this digital age, this 24/7 communication channels, it's kind of blurred the lines between personal and professional availability. So it makes it harder for brand leaders to disconnect from reality. And when I say disconnect from reality is you're out on the vacation with your family, and a great example is that you've indicated you're out of office, but you're not out of mind. So as a result of that, you feel the responsibility to be available. And that's where this disconnect happens, this reality check. So this constant demand can create a dilemma, this leadership dilemma, we call it. As leaders face this must always be on to meet expectations of their teams, client, and organizations, to the sacrifice many times, and unfortunately, to their personal availability, to their wife, to their family, to their friends, whatever it happens to be. And that causes as much stress as anything. So you want to make sure that you're focused around your availability. So that's this modern leadership dilemma that we all face. So what we need to do is really understand the roots of constant availability. This constant pressure to always be available stems from a lot of sources. And these sources are both external and internal. You know, the problem is not only yourself, but the organization itself. The structure that we have with organizations, and I kind of laugh sometimes with these millennials where they want to be disconnected, work for 3 years, have a year vacation, take time off, recharge. You know, at first you kind of take that and laugh at it, but then secondly, you look at it deeper and you go, sometimes we do need that. I'm not saying a full year, but you need to disconnect to reconnect back to the real world so you're more effective, more flexible, and then more available and also a more effective leader. So many organizations expect leaders to be responsive around the clock, especially in industries where there's global connections and operations and extremely competitive environments where things happen very quickly. So leaders feel obligated to show their commitment. And for some reason, and I'm guilty of it, and many of you, I'm sure, are guilty of it, kind of this obligation to be available as a commitment to always be present, fearing that, setting these boundaries that you need to have in your life are perceived inside the industry as lacking dedication to the brand vision, the growth, the team culture. And this gets compounded by the availability through technology, which enable and, sometimes forces leaders to be reachable at all times. So this leads us to this kind of other point, which is this impact. What is the impact of constant availability on our lives? So you may feel like always being available is productive, but the reality is it's counterproductive. The reality is that constant availability can lead to serious personal and professional consequences for leaders. Health, vision, whatever it happens to be, over time, being constantly on, we'll call it, can result in burnout. This is characterized by physical exhaustion people have, mental fatigue and stress. It just drags us down, and you're not effective as a leader or as a family member as a result of these areas of stress and mental fatigue and exhaustion you constantly feel, and nobody wants to constantly hear about it. So decision making can also suffer. And the result of it is this cerebral, what we call brain overload, and emotional exhaustion. Your brain can only take so much each day. And that's why it's so important. We hear many times from leaders that they feel it's a badge of honor or pride if they're working more than 8 hours a day. And I say, how effective and efficient are you during those 8 hours or those 10 hours versus just being present versus being effective or efficient? Burnout leads to decreased creativity. It's a proven fact. Problem-solving ability, overall productivity, weakening leadership effectiveness, all these things are a result of burnout. And the sad thing is, many leaders don't even see it or anticipate it until somebody else tells them. They need some validation from an outside person, either professionally or personally. So the areas that are affected, this last area that we'll talk about is the consequences of leadership burnout. And when leaders face this burnout, and again, I'll say it's a lot of times not personally diagnosed. It's always from somebody from the outside. Personally, professionally, whatever it is. The ripple effect is felt throughout the entire company. The team members feel it. Your wife feels it. Your kids feel it. Whatever it is. Burned out leaders make very poor decisions, communicate ineffectively, or they disengage with their teams, which negatively impacts their team through morale and productivity. Nobody wants to be around somebody that's a downer all the time, or somebody that's tired all the time, somebody that's grumpy all the time. And these are all signs of burnout. You should have a passion around what you do each day. And that's what Steve Jobs said. Find something you have a passion for. Not everybody has a passion for the work. I get it. But when you're there, don't always lean on your team members, your family members. Don't always be a downer. You need to have passion around your doing. And ensure that you're managing burnout so it doesn't happen. In fact, the following are direct consequences of a leader and a company. And that's important to say. A company just can't put their head in the sand and say, hey, Joe's not doing that great, or Judy's not doing that well. She seems really down, or she's making really poor decisions. Well, these are all symptoms of burnout. And you need to address it, because these are the key areas and impacts of burnout if you don't address it. And these goes to, again, entrepreneurs, leaders, visionaries, whoever it is. These are some key impacts of not addressing burnout in your leaders or you personally. Self-diagnosing. Number one is decrease, and these are all, by the way, proven facts of burnout. Number one is decreased decision-making effectiveness. Leaders who suffer from burnout experience cognitive failure, brain drain, they call it, which leads to impaired judgment, slower decision-making, and more frequent errors. They become more risk-adverse. Interesting, right? When we talk about visionary brands, what's one thing that we always talk about is you cannot be risk-adverse. You can't avoid risk and then expect to succeed. It just doesn't happen. So they're more risk adverse. They make impulsive decisions without considering the long-term consequences. Think about that paragraph. That's just something that a brand or a company can't afford not to address. They become more risk adverse, make impulsive decisions without considering long-term consequences. Well, your vision is established in order to execute long-term consequences. So if you have short-term impact through burnout, it's going to be consequences of making impulsive decisions, being risk-adverse, and as a result, a detriment to your vision. Number two is reduced productivity and creativity. Most people say productivity, but when we're talking about product designers, we're talking about those that need to be creative on marketing. So when we talk about number two, it's burnout diminishes the leader's ability to focus, to innovate, and to think creatively. Think of those three areas again. This isn't anything I'm kind of taking off the cuff here. I'm addressing this because I realize the impact it has on companies. I've been there. Having led product and design teams, sales team, marketing teams, business development, I've seen it across the board. Through me personally, with leadership roles on iconic brands, or through Liquid Mind. So reduced productivity and creativity. Again, burnout diminishes the leader's ability to focus, innovate, think creativity. They may struggle with problem solving or coming up with new ideas. So take care of yourself. Ensure that you avoid burnout and you realize what this does and what the impact is to your organization. Number three is higher turnover rate. It's just an end result of what the day-to-day is when you're around somebody who's going through a burnout phase. So leadership burnout leads to higher turnover rate, not just for the leaders, but also for the teams themselves being around the person that's in a burnout stage. And burned out leaders may leave their positions, creating instability and requiring the organization to spend resources on hiring and continually training replacements. That's a problem. So the fact is higher turnover rates. Number 4 is it just has a negative impact on employee morale and engagement as a whole. It's just a downer to be around people that are burned out. So burned out leaders can have a contagious effect on their teams. Leaders are stressed, disengaged, negatively impact the morale of their employees. So teams become less motivated and less engaged, and they as a team, when the leader is underperforming, guess what? The team does. They underperform. So it has a negative impact on employee morale and engagement. Number 5 is just by design, all the things I'm talking about is a health deterioration. You may think you're pushing uphill, but you're actually going downhill. Burnout causes ongoing health issues, and here's just some of them. Chronic stress, anxiety, depression, increased risk of cardiovascular problems. I know these are all kind of bummer down things, but they are a result of burnout. These health issues can escalate absenteeism, even permanent withdrawal from work, and turnover. So health deterioration. Make sure you're taking care of yourself so you don't face burnout. Number 6 is reduced leadership presence and visibility. Just turnover again. Burned out leaders withdraw, become less available to their teams, less engaged in day-to-day operations. That's why there's this underperformance side of it. This absence can lead to unclear direction, weaker organizational alignment, decreased team performance, all of these things. So you can kind of see this chain effect of a leader that is facing burnout and doesn't take care of themselves. It's not only a risk to the organization, it's a risk to your team. It's also a risk to your long-term vision because of dumb decisions that people facing burnout do. Number 7 is increased conflicts and communication. They're just short-fused a lot of times. Burnout can lead to emotional exhaustion, making leaders more irritable, less patient. Can you imagine? Everybody's been in that environment. Somebody that just is not fun to be around. And many times what we see with Liquid Mind when we're going through the whiteboard and we're going through taking care of your employees and avoiding burnout, this is what we see. There's interpersonal conflicts increase, communication breakdowns occur. All of these things are conflicts that lead to decreased performance and effectiveness. And we want to make sure that those can be avoided. Number 8, which is an impact to the organization, why they need to be proactive in addressing this issue, is lower financial performance is directly tied to burnout of leaders inside of an organization. So leadership burnout can directly affect financial performance of an organization. Poor decisions, disengaged leadership, lower team productivity, lead to drop in profitability and market competitiveness. It's just a fact that happens. So what are some of the strategies for balancing this availability and preventing burnout? We always say to what we say counter attack this pressure of constant availabilities. Leadership, they need to adopt strategies that promote balance and prevent burnout. Leaders need to set clear and unattainable boundaries around themselves to avoid burnout. Once you say you're out of office, be out of office. Put the fence around you. Around work hours, availability is essential to avoiding burnout. Delegating tasks to trusted team members. Many times you get leaders that feel like they can do everything, the Superman syndrome, we call it. And as a result, they don't empower their employees. The empowerment of employees is to the benefit of the leader. So do it. They need to prioritize self-care, taking time for mental and physical awareness to recharge, maintain their effectiveness. One of the most effective things, you may laugh, is we recommend that you take naps. Yes, little power naps every day. It recharges your brain. Little things like this are recommendations that we have when we talk about burnout with leaders and employees. Time management techniques such as scheduling focused work hours. Don't get distracted. Be effective and efficient while you're there during your 8 hours, and you can be more effective than somebody working 12. Take tech breaks. Remove your phone from your office. Disconnect during downtime can help leaders remain productive while sacrificing their well-being. So it's really about setting these boundaries. Block times. Block time to do emails. One of the more effective things in the 4-hour work week with Tim Ferriss is when he says, listen, from 8 to 11 a.m. or even 12 a.m., don't check email until 12. There hasn't been any email, and you probably want to look at this over the last 10 years, that you can't return within an 8-hour period that isn't super urgent. Just think about it. You don't have to think too hard because I'm sure you'll come up with the answer right away. You'll say, no, I don't think there really is one. So make sure you're setting those boundaries. And the second strategy for this is organizational support. Say, hey, many people say, oh, just take care of it yourself. But the organization is accountable as well because all of these things affect the organization. And unless you're proactive in ensuring that your employees don't burn out, you're going to be effective as an organization. I don't care if it's financially, turnover, effectiveness, efficiency as a brand and as a company, they'll all affect you. So organizations have a critical role in helping these leaders balance availability and prevent burnout. I go back to the original point where I say it's an expectation to be available. Well, it shouldn't be an expectation. What the expectation should be is that you're executing on the vision, and when you accomplish the execution steps to achieve that vision, then you should be rewarded. Not that you're always on, because if you're always on, you're not always effective. So companies can implement policies that encourage a healthy work balance, such as flexible schedules, mental health support, reasonable workload expectations, and managing expectations relative to the vision that you've set for the company. So they need to model these, what we call healthy boundaries, and emphasizing importance of self-care. Organizations create a culture where leaders feel supported, not alienated in maintaining their well-being, ensuring they have long-term sustainability. And when we say sustainability, we mean that you can be in that role comfortable, that you have the support from the top down in leadership roles. So I'll say in conclusion that this sustainable leadership for long-term success is your goal. Okay, when I come back and I talk about burnout, nobody wants to go through burnout, the company or the individual. So balancing leadership availability with personal well-being is critical for sustained success in leadership, personal and professional life. And by the way, when you're managing this proactively as an organization, you want your leaders' lifestyle balance to be balanced, both professionally and personally. It's one thing to address it within the office, it's another at home. So you want both of those to be balanced, and that's why we talk about leadership balance. So while the pressure might be constantly available and that's kind of the reality that you live in, to be constantly available is your kind of day-to-day reality. Leaders need to learn also to prioritize their health to avoid burnout and maintain their ability to be an effective leader for their teams by setting boundaries, practicing self-care, creating a supportive brand culture and team culture. Leaders can find balance. You'll find your team proactively finding ways to help you balance this. This allows them to be sharp, present, and strong. So again, areas that are key effects of burnout are decreased decision-making effectiveness, reduced productivity and creativity, higher turnover rates, negative impact on employee morale and engagement, health deterioration, reduced leadership presence and visibility, increased conflicts and communication breakdowns, lower financial performance, to mention a few that are all facts as a result of burnout. So as an organization, as an entrepreneur, as you personally and professionally and as an organization, proactively engage with your leaders and your team members, both personally and professionally, to ensure they understand you have their back, and then show it. Be authentic. Make sure that you go through all these things to support them, to ensure that they find balance, and it's part of your organizational culture. So I always say, stay true, stay authentic, be different, and be great. Enjoy the journey along the way. Thank you for listening to the Visionary Chronicles podcast. And if you enjoy the subjects that we're talking about with the Visionary Chronicles podcast, please sign up and subscribe for the Visionary Chronicles. We do this weekly. We also, by the way, ask for feedback from our leaders. And we do get a lot of feedback. And this is actually one that we got tremendous feedback on, saying, hey, can you talk about burnout and how to balance that as a leader? And so when you sign up, you have availability to our weekly newsletter. The weekly podcast will be sent to you. And as a result, also, we have a bonus of an ebook, the Visionary Brand ebook. It is a Amazon bestseller. Also won the award through Reader's Favorite as Favorite Marketing Business Genre Book. Thank you very much for those that purchased. And still available through all distribution channels, so you'll get that ebook as well. And with the ebook, we also just finished proudly, and we have many, many leaders and tremendous feedback from a Visionary Brand Master Course that we just launched in Q1 of this year. And that's available at thevisionaryfiles.com. And it's literally 2 hours of videos, and you can skip around from chapter to chapter. It's a visual presentation of the Visionary Brand book, chapter by chapter. And I also, as you know, lead Liquid Mind. We have a team members. We were virtual before virtual was a reality. And we're a global brand strategy firm working with startups through mid to large cap consumer product brands. We have a free advisory session. Just go to Liquid Mindsight, LIQUIDMINDSITE.com, and sign up for a free advisory session from one of our team members, and we'll be happy to chat with you. We also have an exclusive limited session series that we do monthly as well. It's called a one-to-one advisory that we call Sessions. And you just sign up as a leader, and we are there personally, one-to-one with you, taking you through questions that you have, strategies that you're looking to implement, both on product, business development, sales, strategy, distribution, and also acquisition. And so these are all things that we do on a one-to-one basis. Sessions is also available on liquidmindsight.com. You can also sign up for our newsletter, our blog. And also, I love hearing from you directly, so feel free to reach out to me directly at Brian, BRYAN, at liquidmindsight.com, LIQUIDMINDSITE.com. Happy to answer any questions you might have. And again, thank you for your time. Enjoy the journey along the way, and we'll be back on the next Visionary Chronicles podcast.